Hello, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Crooked Illness. As you guys can see from the title of today's episode, Defeating Our Inner Enemy, we are going to be discussing what this means, what it looks like, and how to go about tackling this. Here to join me in this conversation by sharing her remarkable story is Brandy Benson. Brandy is an author, speaker, business owner, and Ewing sarcoma cancer survivor. She is also the founder and CEO of Resume Advantage, an employment service for both civilians and transitioning military veterans. I'm very excited to have Brandy here today to dive into her story and how she was able to defeat her inner enemy and how you can too. So without further ado, welcome Brandy to the podcast.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here. First of all, thank you for having me. And then you said it correct. It's called Ewing sarcoma. A lot of people don't know how to say it the correct way. I didn't either for a long, long time. But yeah, good job, girl.
The pronunciation thing always gets me because I'm like, how do you say it? Teach me to say it because I don't want to be like, she had this. And it was like, what? What is she?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well,
so
yeah, how do you spell that? Yeah.
Get it down. So yes, so I'm excited because I remember last time we talked, we had a conversation that went on for a while and we just kept talking and talking. And you were telling me about your experiences and your story. And I was like, we got to have her on here right now to get into this. So I would love if you just to hear about your background and give us a nice overview of your story.
Okay, so I am Brandy Benson. I am a Ewing sarcoma cancer survivor. I'm a cancer advocate. I'm a CEO. You did a really great job with my intro, so that's all correct. And I discovered my cancer when I was deployed in Iraq. I was deployed in 2008 to 2009. And it was around December timeframe when I kind of started experiencing the symptoms of the sarcoma. And it was just extreme fatigue. And I didn't know that that's what was like contributing to this tiredness. I thought it was just, I'm in the middle of a war zone. I'm exhausted. I'm away from my family. I'm 24. You know, this is a really big shock to me. I've been in the military for about 6 months. So I literally went from straight out of basic training, AIT, to war. So I thought all of that was just why I was so tired. So I discovered my cancer in 2009, go through all of my treatment. I had 17 cycles of chemotherapy. I did 5 days on, 8 days off, 5 days on, 8 days off. And I continued that for about 10 months. And they also removed my adductor muscle. So that's the muscle that allows you to like sprint and jump, or help. It's one of the muscles to help with like the agility movements and to keep your legs in. So it's a muscle that brings your leg in when you're walking or running or doing flutter kicks, stuff like that. So they removed that. While I was sick with cancer, I started writing in a journal. And the journal was kind of like a dedication, kind of a little bit, to my nephew. So everyone thought I was going to die. Everybody, the doctors, no one really knew if the treatment was going to be responding or not, because they had never really seen a case of Ewing sarcoma in person. They've never treated it. They've never dealt with it. So all my treatments were from like the 50s or the 60s. I don't know which.
And they also didn't know what it was at first, right? I can remember you were telling me, I think, did they misdiagnose it as a different cancer, or they,
Yeah. So they first told me that it was a nerve sheath tumor. And then after I do another biopsy, I'm at Walter Reed and, have to get a clear, definitive answer of what exactly I have. Then they tell me that it's Ewing sarcoma cancer. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
What else you told me that I thought was so crazy was you said, I remember you were talking to me about the process and you were in one of the doctor's offices, and I think they were saying, well, I hope, at least it's not Ewing sarcoma. Let's hope it's not that. And they literally said that, and then that's what it was, but they didn't know at the time. And then you come to find out this is what it is. But what I also think is interesting is you were telling me this cancer is something that is more frequently found in just young Caucasian boys.
Yes.
So I was like, what? That's also pretty crazy as well. And, especially like you were saying, you were in the best condition of your life, in the military, 6 months in basic training, all this kind of stuff, in such good condition that, you were, just having that experience and thinking, wow, this can affect people, of all kinds of just any situation. That was crazy, especially hearing that. I was like,
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I first got diagnosed with, or when I was first thinking that it could be cancer, I'm thinking it can't be cancer because I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm in the best shape of my life. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. Like, I don't do any of those habits. Like, why would I have cancer? Newsflash, cancer happens to everybody and anybody at any stage of their life. Like, infants get cancer, somebody in their teens, or 20s, 30, 40, 50s. Like, it doesn't matter how old you are or what bad habits you have or how great of a person you are liable to get it at any point of your life. It happens
Yeah.
to so many people,
That's
you know?
something too, is that, sometimes I feel like that's how I used to think before. I was like, oh, usually if you get cancer, maybe you're older or you're sick or
Hmm.
something was going on. But no, that's really the fact that it can affect anyone in any condition, anywhere.
Yes, yes.
And I was just, because I feel like sometimes people don't know a lot about it. And I was definitely one of those people who did not know a lot about cancer. So I feel like
Right.
that's why I thought this is what it is when it
Yeah,
wasn't. But I would
right.
love to hear, more about your experience with Ewing sarcoma. So you
Hmm.
shared the story with me last time about,
Hmm.
particularly about mindset during that time, that I thought was really cool. So what was it like, and what was the most helpful to you in terms of mindset during that time when you were going through that?
So, of course, when you're going through this really, really hard time in your life, and whatever age it is, it's like you're not prepared really for it at all. So of course you're going to be sad, you're going to be depressed, you're going to feel helpless, hopeless, you're going to have all of these feelings that are very foreign to you. um, but I think it's very important that these people who experience this, there has to be, it's like a time limit. You can't just sit in this pity and wallow in your sorrows for the entire duration, because you're going to continuously to attract all of that energy into you. You want to feel happy, you want to feel good. So you don't always have to keep continuously focusing on, you're sick, I'm going to die from cancer, and this is going to happen to me. Like, I understand that. And that's, I feel like there is a time period where you can't play the victim the whole time. So it's like, okay, this happens to me, this happened to me, or whatever the case may be. Now it's time to, okay, do you want to feel like this forever? Do you want to be this in this position? If the answer is no, then you need to start thinking on the future and how great it's going to be, and how you're going to beat this, and what life is going to be like after the chemotherapy, after the treatment. So start looking forward to these things in life. Even though you have something right now that's hindering you, it's not always going to be the case. And so with me, I definitely was very sad. I was very depressed, very helpless and hopeless, all of that. But there came a point in my life where I said, you know what? I don't even know what time frame. I think it was like 3 months into the treatment. And I was just like tired of being sad and sick and not well. And I'm like, the only thing I can control are my thoughts. And my thoughts and what I'm thinking is like, it's making me feel bad. It's making me feel sad. I feel not well. So I'm like, if I can just turn it around, even if I don't really feel like it, like, just start
Yeah.
changing my language and
Wow.
changing things, like that really helped me create a shift. And I remember talking to my mom, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a victim twice. So I'm a victim to cancer. Like, I feel like I couldn't really do anything, but I don't have to be a victim to the prognosis, to everything that the doctors say that's going to be happening to me. So I was like, I'm going to beat this, and I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm going to be a miracle somehow, some way. And my story, and I remember telling you, I was like, I'm going to help people. Like, this story is going to be able to be a life-changing situation. And lo and behold, it took years. It's like 12 years later, but it really, like, I can see why it happened. I can see the transformation. I can see when I'm talking to people, like, I'm able to give them hope and inspiration and let them know, yeah, but you have your thoughts with you. You can control your mindset. And if you can control your mindset, then you can really control anything, because cancer, it's really a mental game, because it strips you away from all of your physical strength. The only thing left is your mind. You need to be able
I
to
love
control
that.
that.
That's
It's so
amazing.
true.
That's
It's so
incredible.
true.
That's so incredible, especially, bringing up the point of the power in our thoughts, and how that those are our own, and we have those, and we can control those and turn
Yeah.
those and flip those
Yeah.
into, like you said, when you were sitting there 3 months into treatment, and still feeling very down, very sunken, in this place of feeling like there is no hope, there is no anything moving forward, but being able to turn that around and say, you know what, I don't need to sit here and be a victim twice. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing to bring up that
Mm-hmm.
point. And also another thing I think is really cool is the fact that you kept this journal. You kept this
Mm-hmm.
journal and you were, and turned this into the book that I have right here sitting in front of me that
Yes.
arrived today. And I'm excited, you guys. It is The Enemy Inside Me. She wrote this incredible story that I'm super excited to read about her experiences with Ewing sarcoma, with military experience and all of that, and being able to really, you know, put that into something where people can hold it and read it and relate to it, and
Mm-hmm.
some way, in some form, hear your story and see what you went through and say, wow, if this happened to her and she overcame this and this is what she did, then maybe I can too. Maybe
Right.
there's hope. And just having
Exactly.
that maybe, I think, is so powerful when you're in such a dark whole state of mind.
It is.
Maybe
It
can
is.
grow into possibility and then
Yeah.
working towards overcoming that. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
so awesome and just so important. And, you know, again, like that makes me want to get more into the book. So I'd
Oh,
love
so
to,
excited.
yes, to dive more into this. So I remember you telling me about the book initially.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like I mentioned before, starting out as a journal that you were keeping for your nephew,
Yeah.
Donovan, during your
Yeah.
journey battling Ewing sarcoma.
Yes.
So I want to hear, so why did you write about it in that journal? And what was it like turning that into a book?
So the doctors, the team of doctors, they really didn't have any great news for me. So everyone thought I was going to die. I would have the chaplain coming in and out of my room like at least once a day, and it would happen for months. Well, not months. We'll say about a good 2 months. Come in like once a day. Then it went from once a day to like once a week. Then it went for like every 2 weeks, and then it was just once a month. But they were doing that because they wanted me to. Was I ready to die? Are my affairs arranged correctly? Is my will updated? Is everything left to where it needs to be? And so I'm literally thinking, oh my God, like nobody really thinks I'm gonna live. Everyone thinks I'm gonna die. Like I have this little nephew who's 2 years old and he's so young, and and I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to watch his soccer games. I'm not gonna be able to watch him do anything. I'm not gonna watch him grow up. This is like the most I'm gonna see is this little tiny person. I'm like, this is terrible. Like I know going through this was really hard for my family and for me leaving them, but I was really distraught that I was going to be leaving my nephew and not building any type of relationship with him. So I kind of just started writing a journal, and our journal was really him and I and my mother, what we were doing, what was going on, just documenting everything I can. In the event that I did die, I wanted to leave that for him, so he knew that, he had an aunt, and it's more than just something on paper. And I loved him, and I wish I could have stayed longer. So I was just really just pouring my heart out about what was going on. And I'm so sorry that this has to happen. And if I could be different, like I would stay. So it started out as a journal to him. And then about 3 months into it, after I changed my mind frame, I was like, I'm going to live. I'm going to be this miracle. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And when I did that, I said, and if it does happen, I'm going to change this journal into a book. Did I know how it was going to happen? No, I had no clue, but that was a goal of mine. It was a far-fetched goal, but I was like, that's my goal. That's what I'm going to do. So then years later, I live and I get accepted into an MFA program under Savannah College of Art and Design for grad school. And I used my journal as my thesis, and they kind of fix it up and they help me out a little bit. And so my whole goal was to like publish this work that I had, this thesis now. And then I remember them reading it, and they were all so touched. They were crying. They're like, we were really into it. And they were like, we highly suggest that you finish it. And I'm thinking, it's done. There's no more going on that thing. Like, I'm finished. There's no more going on. Like, I can't write anymore. So I published it in 2018, and I kept my promise. And that's how it all started.
That's amazing. I remember you telling me that story of
Mm-hmm.
when you were in school and using the journal as your thesis, and then having people read it and have these reactions and
Mm-hmm.
responses of just being so overwhelmed with emotion and actually feeling connected. That's really what I honestly love the most
Mm-hmm.
about emotion, because I feel like sometimes it's it could be so taboo to show how you feel and express your feelings. But I think it's so incredible when you're able to do that and connect with somebody and have them leave reading this journal and saying, wow, like this did something for me. This did something for
Yes.
me. This caused something within me. And that's what I think is the best thing of that reaction, and you actually taking that and turning it into a book. Cause that's such a huge accomplishment, to do that.
I
And
didn't know how I was gonna do it.
I know.
It just
And
happened. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. Go for it.
yes,
Just
and
do it.
that's so inspiring. Just, I mean, to so many people, even me, you're very inspired, like making me want to actually finish my book and do that, because seeing just the power in your story and your experience and how you were able to change your mindset and flip that, I think is so incredible and I mean, anybody can take away so much value just from that, from shift. And it doesn't matter what situation or struggle you're facing, whether it's cancer or something else, whatever
Right.
it is, just
Right.
having a shift in how you view what's in front of you, how you view yourself, how you view your capability or ability to move forward, and really
Right.
being able to like take control of that. Because sometimes we feel like when we have these thoughts of fear, shame, especially cancer, and feeling like you are going to die, this is it, everyone around me thinks that I am going to die and they're trying to
Right.
prepare me for this,
Right.
being in that moment and just having all this happening around you, that is, to anybody, of course, understanding how overwhelming that is. And for someone like you to be able to switch that and say, you know what, I'm going to get through this. I don't know how, but I'm going to. And having that mindset, because like you said, when you really think about it, with cancer, it strips away the physical. So you are really left with your mind, your
Yes.
thoughts, and
Yes.
because it is so easy, I feel like, to be overwhelmed and to
It is.
just sink deeper. It's easier, but I think it takes a lot more to come out of that place and really move forward in that way. So that to me resembles so much mental strength. And we talked a lot about that last time we were speaking. And you said something powerful to me that I wrote down, because I always write things down that people say
Okay.
so I could bring it up later. I'm like, this is amazing. So you
Great.
explained to me the necessity in having mental strength, because the cancer takes away the physical strength, like we mentioned.
Right.
So what did you do to stay mentally strong throughout your experience with cancer?
I lived for the future. I found things to live for. I went out and bought a car. I told you the story about getting the car that I got.
Yes.
Yes, like I literally had to talk the salesperson into letting me purchase the car because I was so sick. I was ill. I looked not well. And I remember sitting, her name was like Betsy or something with a B. She lived in it was in Maryland, Silver Springs, Maryland, at the Kreitz Center or something in Maryland. And I remember talking to her and telling her, like, I need this car. This car is going to help me live. I'm going to have something to look forward to. So having things to look forward to for the next day or the next hour, or whatever it is, like, what is it that's pushing you to
What
make
was
you
so
feel
cool about that was how when you were telling me that story about the getting the car and looking forward to the car payments. And I was
I
like,
did not want
what? I was like, what an awesome
Yes,
thing. What an awesome thing. Cause who really sits there and is like, I'm going to pay my car payment. I'm excited. I'm fired up about this. But you
yes,
saw that, you wanted that, and you
yes.
were, and that's so cool. Like,
I
wow.
could, I was there every month, and sometimes I'd pay double. They
Oh
love
my gosh. I
But
love
I
that.
was, I needed something to look forward to. Of course, you need a strong support system, but like, what is going to keep you for the next day, for the next week, for the next month? What is it that's driving you? What's giving you purpose to breathe and live? And I was just looking for any and everything that I could live for. So it was going to be the book that would then turn into the journal that would turn into the book. It was watching my nephew grow up. It was getting this car and making these payments. It was, being strong enough so I can like pave a path for people who then have sarcoma in their future sometime. So it was just small little bits of things that made me feel like I have to live. Like, you cannot give up. This is not the end of your story. This is just a chapter of your story. Like, this doesn't have to be the whole story. So whatever I could do to make myself live. I remember there was one point, I think I was a PFC at the time, And I had one of my NCOs who were coming in. She was in charge of me at the Warrior Transition Unit. So it was a WTU unit. And I remember talking to her. She was also a cancer survivor. And I remember talking to her. I was like sitting in my bed. I'm all like sick and stuff. And I remember saying to her, I should be getting promoted in the next month here, coming up pretty soon. And she's like, money should be the last thing on your mind. I'm like, it's beyond money. Like, this is something to look forward to. Like, I'm going to be a specialist coming up pretty soon. I know I'm in like a wheelchair and I'm not feeling well, but this is something that's that I'm looking forward to, So next month I'm going to be a specialist. My money's going to increase. I'm going to pay money on a car payment. Like, I had weird little things that really just helped me feel like I was in control again.
Wow. I love that, how you talk about the future, how you talk about these things that you have to help you move forward, especially during that time that, needing those things. Like you said, watching your nephew grow up, having this car, making the payments, getting that promotion, all these things, and they all add up. And that's the thing, especially seeing someone like that, whenever I, hear stories like this and run into people who have just such a, I don't know, like resiliency or what, I don't know what the word is for that, but just the way that you approach the situation and what you're facing with such an attitude of like persistence in being able to move forward and knowing that you will, knowing that there's no option of failing. There's no option of dying or anything. You are going to move forward,
Yes.
and you are making that a
you
thing.
have to talk yourself into believing that. Like, I would be in denial about being sick with cancer until I'd look into the mirror and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's why everyone's staring at me and looking at me like I'm crazy, because I don't have any hair, I have dark circles in my eyes, like I look very ill. But I was so convinced that like, I'm going to be well. I felt sick, but I would tell myself, you're well, you're fine. I would talk to my leg. I would tell my leg that you're going to beat this cancer. This cancer you have no home here. And I would talk to myself constantly about how I'm going to be better soon and how this is just going to be an experience. One of these days, I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to help somebody. So I really just focused on the future and how I was going to be doing in the future, and not really harping too much on how I was feeling and how sick I was and how terrible I felt, because I did. But I would just be like, you know what, Mom, I'd be sitting in the bed with the IVs hanging and, chemo going through my body. And I would just tell her, you know what, this time next year, we are going to laugh about all this stuff that was happening. Because we would laugh. We would have a really good time. In the hospital room, we would be cracking jokes, having a good time, and just enjoying ourselves in that moment. So I would always tell her, like, this is going to be something that we're going to look back on and be like, wow, we went through that. We did this together, because she was there for me the entire time. Aww. She did not leave my side, not once.
Aww. I love that so much. And especially, when you were first telling me about the cancer experience, and I would love if you could talk about that, because it was just so wild to me to hear about, I think you said you were in Afghanistan and then they took you to Germany, and you went like all over the place, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So first I was in Iraq. So I went from Iraq to Germany, and in Iraq I was at this FOB called FOB Echo. So I was there for a brief moment, like 4 months, and that's when I got sick. So I went from there. Then I went to Baghdad. In Baghdad, I was there because I had to get a CT scan of this massive mass that I had in my leg. So I went from Baghdad to then Germany, Landstuhl, Germany. And I stayed there for about a week or so, or 5 days, I'm not sure. And they had to do an MRI. So we did the MRI. And while we're doing the MRI, I remember the doctor telling me that he prays that it's not Ewing sarcoma, that he hopes that it's a nerve sheath tumor. And I'm like, what the beep is that? Like, what do you mean?
My goodness.
What does all this mean? So I had no clue what these things were. I didn't even know what a tumor was. I'd never met anybody with a tumor. I literally was like a fish just dropped into the ocean, and I'm used to, like, being in a little fishbowl. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. So then I find out, both of these are some kind of cancers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope it's a nerve sheath tumor, not Ewing sarcoma. So they get the biopsy back, and then he tells me that, it's a nerve sheath tumor. And I'm like, whew, okay. Like, okay, now I can breathe. Like, all right, it's a nerve sheath tumor. That's the better one. That's the one the doctor said I should have. Like, okay. So this entire time I'm thinking this massive, huge, lump in my leg is a nerve sheath tumor. So then I have to go to Walter Reed because I have to get my treatments and my care and all that. Finally get there, and they say they have to do a new biopsy. And I'm like, all right, like, why would you have to do that? It's a nerve sheath tumor. Like, they told me that, a couple days ago, and they assured me that, well, we have to make for sure that this is that type of cancer. And then we have to make sure that the cells are new, because we have to test those cells again, and they're dead from, weeks ago. So we do the new one, and then they come back and they tell me it's Ewing sarcoma. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Yeah. And I just start crying hysterically. And my mom's like shushing me and telling me everything's going to be okay. And don't worry, it's going to be all right. And I'm like, that's the one they said they didn't want me to have. I looked it up online. It says I'm going to die. It says it, it spreads from my lungs to my spinal cord to my brain.
That makes me think of, when you were telling me about when you first got the scan and the doctor goes, well, I hope it's not Ewing sarcoma. I'm like, why would someone say that? Like, to even put it out there into the universe of this could be, but we hope, because that,
yeah.
Imagine anybody getting a diagnosis like that and hearing, okay, well, and then you think it's something else. You're like, okay, it's this nerve sheath tumor. That's what it is. Okay, great.
Yes.
And then you hear somebody say, well, I hope it's not that one, because if that's that one, you're going to die. It's really bad. And then you get told it's that one. Of course, that would make anybody, be like, what just happened? You just got your scan. You were told it was this. Now you're being transported to Walter Reed. They're doing another scan. And on top of that, you're sitting there like, why am I doing another one? I already got to.
Yeah.
It's just, so much is happening. You've been like so many places. You were at Iraq, Baghdad, Germany, Walter, all these places, all these, the scans and all this stuff, and having to deal with that, and just really being able to, just go through that, have that experience, and have the mental strength that you did, I think is so great, like amazing.
Wow.
Like,
I know, and I think about it all the time, like, wow, it's still like, it's just so surreal that, and then I have like this scar to remind myself, like, yeah, this really did happen, but it's like, wow, I went through a lot,
at such a young age too, right? And
yeah,
like
24, yeah.
And you were remember you were telling me that you just got out of training when you were new into the military, and you were thinking you were going to be deployed, and then I think this is right when everything started happening. You were like ready to go, and you're getting ready and seeing where you want to go, and then you were told, no, you can't do this, and it just all started happening like right at once.
So when you go through basic training, AIT, and they're always constantly telling you that, some of you are going to go straight to Iraq. Some of you are going to go straight to war. Some of you are not going to come back alive. Some of you are going to experience traumatic things, and you're not going to come back mentally like alive or the same. So I'm thinking, whatever, this is not going to happen. Like, come on, man. Like, I just joined the military. Like, why would they send me or any other brand new soldier to war when we're just learned how to shoot an M16? There were 50, a handle of 50 cal, throw a grenade, clear a room, see if a lung had collapsed. Like, we're just learning how to do all this stuff. Like, why would they, like?
And then they told you were going, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what happened? You were like, no, like, I'm not going to go. And then they tell you, well, you're going here. And
Yep. What? Yes. And then I get to my first main duty station. I'm there for 1 month and 9 days. And my first day there, I'm talking to my NCO who's in charge of me at Fort Carson in Colorado. So I'm there and I'm talking to him. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that I'm starting my life now. I'm going to have this job. I'm have a career. I'm in the military. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. And then he turns around and, so we're having a conversation, and I'm telling him how excited I am about what's going to be happening. And I'm looking forward to this. And he turns around and says, your unit just got deployed. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean we got deployed? He's like, yeah, they're like, literally they're packing up and everyone's going. I'm like, what? Are you sure? Like, is this even allowed?
And where were you deployed? So where were you? And then where were you being deployed to?
I was in Fort Carson, Colorado Springs, and that's a rapid deploying area. And I picked that place. I didn't know that. I just wanted to go because there's deers and there's
Yeah.
foxes, there's bears, and I loved working out, and I wanted to jog and run and experience the snow and all that stuff. So I'm thinking I'm going to this beautiful nature picturesque place when really I'm not even there very long. I'm there and I'm literally like training for Iraq and we're leaving. So from there, we then go to, it's called Diwania. It was 86 miles south of Baghdad. And that's exactly where we ended up going to. But I was in complete shock. Like, I was like, how is this even allowed? Like, I feel like there should be some sort of buffer here to let me, like, you know, even though the AIT and basic is preparing you to go to war, like that's what you signed the paperwork for. This is what's happening. But I felt like I wasn't ready to really put it all into action just yet. I was really just
Wow. Yeah, because that's surprising to me too. I remember you were first telling me about that, and you said you just got done with basic training, and you're like, how can someone who just learned how to shoot a gun, you're going right here. But
yeah.
that is so wild. Just the whole story of how all of it unraveled and happened, and how you got deployed, and then the cancer hit, and then getting treatment for that, and going through all this stuff, and then doing the journal, and then going to school and using that as your thesis and turning it into a book. I just think it's so, like, it's a great this is a great story. I love it. Just like all,
Thank
and just
you.
the whole attitude that you really had. And also I want to also talk about the inspiration behind starting Resume Advantage, because I remember you
Yeah.
telling me about that, and I thought that was so cool that you started something like that because of your own experience. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
love if you could get into that and talk to me about what it is, where you got
Mm-hmm.
the idea from, and the impact it has had on you and others.
Okay. So my entire plan for joining the military was to, of course, defend my country, be part of a huge organization that I would be super proud of and proud to be in and represent. But it was also to someday become an officer and retire in the military. So that was my entire goal. Like, I want to be in here. I'm a lifer. We call them a lifer. I'm being here forever. This is my job. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is my new life. So when I ended up getting sick, I realized that I'm kind of like a hindrance to the organization, to the Army. I can't run, I can't sprint. If I got deployed again, God forbid that I get into a firefight, I would be a liability because I can't get up and sprint and run like I need to. I can't, my leg is dragging. I don't have the strength anymore. So I was just kind of really beaten up and sad about that. So I ended up going through the transition program, where it's about 6 or 8 months on, one of them. It's been a while. And where they do your resume, they do your cover letter, they get everything all ready for you. And so through this program, they kind of prep you and get you ready for transitioning out of the military into the civilian sector. So with that, I went through the program, and the resumes were very like cookie cutter. Like, everybody had the same type of resume. If you and I both were 42 Alpha, your resume is going to be the exact same as my resume, because we did all the same training, we did all the same jobs. There's nothing that's going to really stand out. Maybe a couple of awards and stuff like that, but in deployments and things like that. But I felt like the resume lacked originality. It lacked what made us truly stand out as individuals, because if we're both trying to go for the same job and all of our resumes say the exact same thing, like, how do they know who to pick and why they're picking them if we're good for this organization? So I was really bummed out that this was my experience. And lo and behold, that was a lot of people's experience. Even till this day, when they're getting out, they all feel not very prepared. And it's not like it's the military's fault or whoever's fault. It's just maybe it's not hitting its markers correctly. So when I was going through the program, I was like, if I could just help others, or if I could, be of some sort of service to let people know that, yes, you're going to be getting out. However, there's this program or this service that can help you transition smoother and make you feel ready and confident to be in front of these employers, to sell you and communicate your value. I think that'd be great. So I opened up Resume Advantage, and that was originally started out for those in the military transitioning out, for the veterans coming to the civilian sector and kind of communicating their value and their experience on paper the correct way so they can get the jobs that they deserve, because a lot of people don't know that they qualify for that position. All they have to do is a little bit of tweaking and changing the jargon, and presenting themselves the proper way, they can get the position, they can talk to that position, they can sell themselves that way. So that's what I do now. And that's how I feel like I'm able to give back and to help people. And I just feel like it's a great, great, great position to be in, because I'm a life changer. I literally am able to help people get jobs where they're making 20,000, like 40 grand. It's like $100,000. And it's all if you can change the verbiage in the resume, you can get the job. And of course, you have the experience as well, but you can get that job and have so many people that will reach out to me. I got one guy, I'm not gonna say his name, I'm sure he wouldn't care, but he's been offered like 5 jobs, all military, all contract positions, government positions. And one of the jobs offered him $120,000 to start off with. He was supposed to get it, COVID happened. But after that, he told all of his friends, and I'm getting so many references and people. And it's like, wow, I'm really able to help these people get these positions, and it's so rewarding. So I opened up that business because I knew that there was a missing component that could help service people who are getting out, and you've given up so much of your life already, and you've defended your country. You know, so the best thing I can do, or I can help with, is help them transition to the right job.
Yes, I love that. I thought that was so cool. And we were talking about that before. You let me know about Resume Advantage and how your own experience was as well, you know, with being in the transitional program that you were in, where all of the resumes looked the same or identical or very similar, and also having other people struggle with that as well and saying the same thing, coming out, same kind of issue. And I think that's amazing that you created this to be able to help people and, right, like you said, communicate their value in front of employers and really do that in a way, because, you know, I also like how you mentioned, you know, that, you know, it's not anyone's fault why this isn't working. You just have something to help it out, you know, a solution to help people with that transition. Because, you know, I don't know what that's like, because I've never been in the Army or military to transition out of, but I've talked to people who have, and they did, you know, bring up kind of similar things as you were saying, you know, kind of how there seems to be some gaps in getting out and coming back to civilian life when it comes to, you know, jobs and different things, and just dealing with trauma and processing that, and, you know, getting help with these things. But I think that's so important, and such a thing that is needed for people, you know, to have that as an option, you know, if they are struggling with that or wanting to learn more about something or fix a certain thing, just having that as an option that's out there and available. So I think that's awesome and incredible. And I also, you know, want to say thank you to you, Brandy, for making the time to come out here on Crooked Illness and chat with me, share your story, which is amazing, and just, you know, get into all the details with, you know, what it was like with Ewing sarcoma, and a little bit of the background, you know, being in the military and starting Resume Advantage and having all of these experiences. I think it's been so awesome talking with you and hearing the details on all of this. So
of course.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. I've had a great time.
Yes.
When you have a good time, it goes by so fast. I'm like,
I know. I know. I was like, this is going to be so much fun. And you guys, you need to check out her book, The Enemy Inside Me. I have my copy sitting right here in front of me. I have it right here. Woo, woo,
How
woo.
exciting. I'm so excited to read it. You're going to love it. It's super, 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 so detailed. So detailed. Like you're not going to be able to put it down. It's really good. I'm very excited for you.
I love that. I love books like that. Oh, probably, more than likely, 100% probably will. So you guys check her out, Brandy Benson. She's awesome. She's on Instagram as well. I will also tag you there and do a post about this episode once it is out. But you guys, wherever you are listening to this, whether it is morning or nighttime, I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to end it on that note. All right. Bye, guys. And bye, Brandy.
Bye. Thank